I mean, that's analogous to a house, right? Someone could spend 10, 20 million, 100 million, doesn't matter. You and I could go through any house we've ever built and compile a list of 50 things you could do better.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying good enough or any of that. That's a separate conversation. But like you get my point. Like, that's why like the punch list, like we do an internal punch list like you guys do. I'm sure you walk it with your team and you punch it and that's great. But like, when you're doing the final thing and there's certain things you're like, that's not acceptable. Let's fix that. But like, you're kind of never done. And like, it's a hard thing because like, there's also nothing that's perfect. Like, I don't believe the client is always right. I don't believe in perfection because it doesn't exist. But like, it doesn't mean we don't do an amazing job. It doesn't mean we don't care to the nth degree. But, I recently, someone brought up this thing like, oh, the client's all right. And I said, you know what? I'm going to disagree. I'm going to stop you right there. I said, the client is not always right. Are you telling me if the client says like, fire that guy, you should fire that guy? I mean, maybe, but it's not his call and maybe he's wrong. And like, I guess my point is like, there's very few things that are absolute. And anyway, it gets to your point, Tyler, it's never all done. There's always something to do. But
no. And like, as soon as you think you're done, something else comes up.
mm-hmm.
So I think it's being able to roll with it. In what instance do you feel that the client, that's something that Nick and I are very different. Like Nick I'll bend over backwards for clients when I feel like it's reciprocated. But if it's not, I'm like, I'm not going to do for you if you continue to treat me like crap. And Nick will just sit there sometimes and take it and take it and take it and is like way too nice. In what situations do you feel you have to dig your heels in and be like, hey,
I think the hard part is like, I look back at my best clients and there's nothing I wouldn't do for them, but they also don't ask for it. And then you look at some of your worst clients and they ask for the stars.
yeah,
Forget the moon. They want the stars. And you're just like, it's never enough. I have a client right now, a past client, and it's hard for me. I have pretty thick skin, but I would say the last 24 is actually the hardest year of my career, other than 2009 or 10. From building, Curious Builder was like a shot of adrenaline, espresso, and all good things. Like I think it allowed me to have a lot of time to devote energy and resources to what the collectives have become and the wellness and I've had so much time to have all these iterations and this free, like I'll look back 5 years from now and be like, wow, had I not had that really slow year in building, there's no way I would have been able to do some of the things that I'm trying to do. We'll see if they're successful, but to try to do. But because we had like 10 or 15 million in revenue, which my average revenue is probably like 6 to 10, depending on which home is which. But like we had probably 15 million slide last year, which is like, it could have been my best year ever to my worst year ever.
yeah.
And so I bring, what I'm saying is like, and on top of it, I've got this client that just like, it's like never goes away. And I actually got to the point where I've never had this with any client. I actually blocked them on all forms of communication because it got so over the top. To say I couldn't handle it was not. It was not a healthy place. I mean,
After the job was completed,
2 years after. No, it's two. I built the home 2 years ago.
Those are the
and
same people who like send their food back.
Just eat or go to the different restaurants. Tyler, I like you. Like even if you don't like it, the maitre d' comes by. How was your meal? And you're like,
it's great. Don't say a
totally,
word. Shut up.
That's wow. Hey, common ground, Tyler. Look at this. We're simpatico.
This is
all.
I wanted this. I wanted this medium rare, and it looks like it's more medium.
Well, dude, that came up on Unreasonable Hospitality, Nick. Remember, the guy sent it back, and it actually was medium. The client or the maitre d' or the server disagreed with the person, and then after they made a note in the system, ridiculous service. But they said basically this client thinks that medium rare is medium, and so next time when he comes in, to make the anyway, long story short, but this client, I can't, to answer your question, how far do you go? I feel like my clients, I've only had two bad ones. So it's just the ones you talk about. And so like for 20 years, I've had two. Like that is for 100 plus clients to have only two, like that's amazing, I think. And so, but they use my humanity. They use my kindness. I am not prepared the way I would like to be prepared to deal with somebody that is so unethical. And so, Nick, it's a little bit like that guy you told me about who knew he was going to screw you when he signed your contract because you didn't have your labels defined.
Thinking about,
and like, he knew the moment he signed it, he was going to screw you. These people, I only have, I think, like 2 red flags that because people ask me all the time, "What would you do if you looked backwards?" And, it's like, I'm not sure I would have seen it. Maybe a little orange, but I didn't see red, because if I saw red, I don't know what I would have done. Maybe I would
Yeah.
have maybe you'd
You
like
would
to
have
think you
stopped.
did
You would have
something, but you
stopped.
maybe
Yeah.
but I didn't. And it's the relationship between people. Brad Levitt talked about it one time where he
Mhm.
had a client swear at his wife, and he said, "I'm done. I'm out right now. Anyone that would talk to their wife that way is not someone I'll work with." And he was gone. And I've told that story a few times because it's never happened to me, but I appreciate, that's pretty obvious. Like that one would be like, okay, even not, I'm a pretty, I'm too optimistic. I don't see this. And I think what happens is I think the best of people, which is probably the way I'd rather go through life. But every once in a while you get somebody like this, and it's just, they use it, your humanity, and they just beat you with it. And they're like, "Oh, you're builder of the year. Oh, you say you're so good. Oh, you're so conscious." And it's just like, nonstop. And so anyway, for me, I had to block him. So my PM, I've said, "You say the word and I'll block him for you too," because he's very calm and he's good with them. But like there's been some, not lawsuits, but just lawyer stuff on some, the problem is like 10% of what they've said is real, 90% of it's just craziness. But
Mm.
when you mix truth with lies, or, you know, uh, a dose of craziness, it becomes very difficult to find your way through this path. And it's so exhausting. It
Yeah.
takes so much energy. And while none of these have gone to like full lawsuits, and I know some builders probably listening are laughing like, "Oh, I get lawsuits all the time." And like, the thing that nobody talks about, and someday, we do consulting too, so someday this, I guess, is my training for consulting, is like, nobody tells you that when you get into a situation like this, like, it's 2 years, 3 years, maybe longer, of like emotional, like, you don't even know you're sort of carrying that backpack of emotional weight. And then you disengage. That's why I'm so passionate about this wellness sector, because if I don't have that, I can't deal with this. And
Yeah.
I really, really, really need that balance, because then I can show up. And because, we all have to do hard things. Yeah, not every client's great. That's fine. I can deal with most people. But anyway, I went on too long with that vent.
I think
But
if you're used to dealing with that too, it's much easier. Like you said, there's a lot
maybe,
of
yeah,
people like that.
maybe.
That's just run of the mill. I know that I struggle with the same thing. It's like when I have my biggest thing in life and in business is when I feel I'm being taken advantage of, where it's like I'll help anyone and do anything for anyone and bend over backwards. But when I feel as though it's not reciprocated or you're taking advantage of me, I'm like, all right, I'm done. I'm not doing anything else. And so when you have those clients, it is really, really difficult to accept that. And I think you internalize a lot of that and say, well, I wouldn't do it this way, or I would, that wouldn't be me. And I don't know if that's the right path forward. But I think that, yeah, it is tough to deal with those things, especially when you have 100 clients and only 2 of them are bad. Like you are not set up to be handling
Right.
those crappy clients.
It's hard. And again, back to my favorite quote of last year: "Boundaries create freedom." I think there's been, I think, I've done stuff in my contract and in my life that I didn't realize were a benefit. I tell my clients, I will not answer the phone after 5 o'clock.
Mhm.
You can't go to the dentist at 9 o'clock at night. Like, we're running, you guys talk about this all the time, but like, I have found those things to be so helpful. We have right in our contract that texting is not an acceptable form of communication. No change orders or things like that. Like, you could text. I mean, obviously you can text us and say like, "Hey, I'm
Sure.
running late for a meeting," or like, "Hey, could we move that?" Like, that's what texting is for, in my opinion. But pages and pages and pages of text, is just, it's crazy. And so I also want to protect my people. Like, I don't want my project manager or my account managers or my marketing people to burn out, because and there are some people, like, you're just better walking away. And like, when I think, like, lawyers, I don't know how lawyers do it, because even though they're not really the direct one, like, they're, you usually don't call a lawyer when things are going great. You call them when things are gone, either to protect you or things have gotten too bad already. And so it's like, yeah, and I asked my lawyer about this. He's like, "Well, why do you think in movies they're depicted in 2 places, the courtroom and the bar?" He's like, which I thought was pretty funny. Uh,